The airport called to say they had found a suitcase carrying my old address and another man's name, even though I had moved from that house 23 years earlier. I was 68 then, retired from maintaining lighthouses along the Maine coast. The woman from baggage services said the suitcase had been discovered during renovations behind a sealed wall in an old terminal storage room at Portland International Jetport. The luggage tag lists you as a contact, she said. I've never lost a suitcase. The passenger name is Peter Vale. I don't know him. She paused. Mr. Duran, the tag is brass. It has your former address stamped into it, not written. That bothered me more than it should have. My wife, Claire, had ordered brass tags for our luggage in the late 90s. She believed paper tags were invitations for disaster. Our names had been engraved on the front, our address on the back. I drove to Portland the next morning. The suitcase was an old brown Samsonite with a split handle. The brass tag hanging from it had been polished by years of rubbing against something. Peter Vale. On the back was the address of the little white house Claire and I rented near Rockland. The airport clerk asked me to confirm the address before opening the suitcase. Inside were 3 shirts, a shaving kit, 2 paperback books, and a folded work schedule from the Lighthouse service dated October of 1999. My name appeared beside Owl's Point Light. Another name was written below mine, Owen Price. Owen had been my closest friend. He was also the man I blamed for the night Owl's Point went dark and nearly ended my career. At the bottom of the schedule, in Claire's handwriting, were 5 words. Peter cannot travel alone. Owen knows. I met Owen in 1984, when the Coast Guard still maintained most of the old lights directly, and a man could spend half his week repairing machinery built before his father was born. Owen was not officially a lighthouse technician. He was an electrician assigned to marine aids. But titles meant little when a fog signal quit at 2 in the morning. If something failed, whoever reached it first became an expert. He carried a green canvas tool bag patched at both corners. The bag had belonged to his uncle, and Owen treated it with more respect than he treated most supervisors. "You throw that thing away," I told him once. "I'll buy you one with zippers at work." The zippers work. You close them with copper wire. That's still working. We trusted each other offshore. That kind of trust is different from friendship on land. On land, people can walk away from an argument. In a lighthouse tower during winter, the man beside you may be the only reason you get home. Claire liked Owen, though she said he enjoyed being needed too much. "He arrives before anyone asks," she told me. That's called reliable. Sometimes. The night Owl's Point failed. Owen was supposed to perform the monthly generator load test. I was assigned to inspect a fog signal and replace a corroded relay. He never arrived. The weather turned before sunset. Rain came sideways, and the wind pushed hard enough to make the tower windows flex. I did both jobs alone. At least I believed I did. Near midnight, the generator stalled. The main lamp went dark. The backup battery held the smaller harbor marker, but the primary light remained out for nearly 4 hours. A coastal freighter entered the channel too far east and struck a navigation buoy. Nobody died. One deckhand broke his shoulder when the crew corrected course. The investigation found the generator's fuel line had been left partially closed after service. Owen signed the maintenance sheet. He had not been there. When I asked why, he said, "Because you already have enough trouble." Then he resigned. The suitcase offered no explanation beyond Claire's note. Peter cannot travel alone. Owen knows. Claire had been dead 7 years. Pancreatic cancer, fast and unfair. Our daughter lived in Vermont and knew nothing about anyone named Peter Vale. I called the Lighthouse Service Archive in Boston. Most records from that period had been transferred to a federal storage facility, but a retired administrator named Janet Mills still lived near Bath and agreed to speak with me. Janet remembered Owen. "People like Owen are easy to remember," she said. "They help until everybody forgets helping cost them." I showed her a photograph of the work schedule and Claire's note. Janet adjusted her glasses. "Peter Vale," she said. "You know the name?" He applied for temporary maintenance work. When? 1997. Owen recommended him. Was he hired? No. Failed the medical review. For what? I don't remember. The records would be private anyway. She looked again at the suitcase tag. Peter used your address on the application. I felt my shoulders tighten. Without asking me, maybe somebody asked for you. Janet remembered Claire coming to the regional office once. She wanted to know whether a person who had been rejected for field work could qualify for warehouse employment. Did she say Peter was family? I asked. No. She said he was an old friend who needed routine. That was how Claire spoke when she was hiding emotion inside practical language. Janet gave me one useful lead. Owen's younger sister, Martha, still lived in Belfast. I had met Martha twice, both times at crowded summer cookouts. She was a nurse then. Now she was 72 and caring for her husband after a stroke. When I called, she said, "You found the suitcase." Not what suitcase. The suitcase. I found it, I said. Is the brass tag still there? Yes. Then Peter never made it to Arizona. I looked across my empty kitchen. Who was he? Matzah. You need to ask who he was to Claire. Martha came to my house the following Sunday. She brought Owen's green canvas tool bag. The copper wire was still twisted through the main zipper. One corner had been repaired with red thread I recognized as Claire's work. She sewed in short, uneven stitches and always left too much thread at the knot. Martha set the bag on my table. Owen left this with me before he died, she said. I had not known he was dead. 2 years ago, she explained. Heart failure. I sat down. Whatever anger I carried toward Owen had depended on him being somewhere in the world, still available to receive it. Martha opened the bag. Inside were ordinary tools. Voltage meter, screwdrivers, wire strippers, a small flashlight. Beneath them lay an airline timetable from 1999 and a photocopy of Peter Vale's driver's license. The face belonged to a man in his late 40s. He had Claire's eyes. Her brother? I asked. Martha nodded. Claire had told me she had no siblings. Her parents were dead by the time we married. I never questioned the empty spaces in her family history because mine had plenty of its own. Why would she hide a brother from me? Because Peter was ill. Martha spoke carefully. Peter had struggled with severe depression and periods of confusion since his 20s. He worked when he could, disappeared when he could not, and spent several years moving between shelters, hospitals, and friends' couches. Claire had tried to help him before we met. Eventually, she stopped answering his calls. She told herself it was the only way to keep a life, Martha said. Then why bring him back? Because their mother died asking her not to abandon him. That promise had followed Claire into our marriage without my knowing. In 1999, Peter appeared at a shelter in Bangor, using Claire's name as his emergency contact. Claire went to get him. She told Owen. She did not tell me. Martha said Peter needed long-term treatment at a residential program outside Phoenix. A bed had opened, but only for 3 days. He had to arrive quickly, and the program required someone to escort him because he had recently walked away from a hospital during discharge. Claire could not go. Her mother was recovering from surgery, or so Claire told me at the time. I now understood those visits had been to Peter. She asked Owen, "Why him?" I said, Martha looked at me for a moment before answering, "Because you had already met Peter." I shook my head. No. Yes. The memory came back in pieces. A man on our porch one winter evening. Thin coat, unshaven. Claire standing behind me, pale and silent. He said he had known her family. I thought he wanted money. He did. But not only money. I gave him $20 and told him not to return. Afterward, Claire said he was someone her father once helped. She did not correct me when I called him a drifter. That was Peter, Martha said. I remembered Claire washing the same coffee cup 3 times after he left. Why didn't she tell me? She tried. No. She asked what you would do if somebody in your family kept taking help and never got better. I remember that conversation too. I said people had to want saving. I said a marriage could not survive every lost relative who appeared at the door. I spoke generally because I did not know she was asking for a decision. Claire heard an answer. The first twist was that Owen had not abandoned his duty at Owl's Point for some selfish reason. He missed the generator test because he was taking Claire's brother to the airport. When Peter panicked at the terminal and refused to board, Owen stayed with him. He accepted blame for the failed test to protect Claire from explaining the secret she had kept from me. For 23 years, I had remembered Owen as the man who left me alone. The truth was that Claire had sent him where she believed I would not go. Understanding Owen's reason did not make everything gentle. I was angry at Claire. I was angry at Owen. I was angry at Peter, which was unfair and therefore easy. Martha let me sit with it. Finally, she said, Owen believed one night of blame would pass. It cost him his job. He did not expect that. Then why didn't he tell the truth? Because Claire begged him not to. I stood and walked to the window. She let my friend lose his career. Yes, and he let me believe I caused it. Martha did not answer. That silence told me there was more. I pulled Owen's old maintenance sheet from my files. I had kept it through every move, folded inside my service manual like evidence in a private trial. The generator load test had his initials. The fuel line inspection had mine. I remember performing it during the storm, but the procedure required loosening the line, checking the filter bowl, then reopening the valve fully. I had done it in a hurry while answering a radio call from Harbor Control. I could picture my gloved hand turning the valve. Could I picture turning it all the way back? No. The official finding blamed incomplete maintenance. Owen accepted responsibility because his name was on the test sheet, but he had never touched the fuel line. I had. You knew, I said to Martha. Owen suspected. Suspected what? That you left the valve partly closed. I felt my face warm. He could not know that. He knew your habits. You rushed when you felt abandoned. That was Claire's phrase, not Owen's. Claire had told him. The darkened light was not simply the result of Owen's absence. His choice put me alone in the tower. My anger made me careless. Then his lie allowed me to believe the failure belonged entirely to him. Peter Vale was alive. Martha found him through a social worker in Arizona. He lived in a supported apartment outside Tucson and worked 3 mornings a week repairing donated bicycles. I called before traveling. Peter's voice was soft and uncertain. Samuel? Sam. Claire called you Samuel when she was angry. That made me smile before I meant to. I flew to Tucson in February. Peter met me in a courtyard with citrus trees planted along the wall. He was 74, stooped but steady, wearing a work shirt with grease along one sleeve. The brass luggage tag hung from a cord around his neck. I stared at it. The suitcase tag? He touched it. They mailed the suitcase to you, but this was in my pocket. Why keep it? It had Claire's address. Our address? Yes. We sat at a metal table. Peter remembered the airport clearly. The crowds. The announcements. Owen buying him a sandwich he could not eat. Peter became convinced a treatment center was a trap arranged by people who wanted him gone. Owen stayed calm for hours. Then Owen lost his temper. He told me Claire had risked her marriage for me, Peter said. He said if I walked away, I would prove everybody right. What did you do? I walked away. Peter left the terminal and spent the night at a mission. Owen searched until morning, then returned to Maine after learning Peter had used a sheltered telephone to call Claire. You never went to Arizona? Not then. Where did the suitcase go? Owen checked it before I ran. The unclaimed suitcase remained at the airport until renovations uncovered it decades later. Peter looked down at the tag. I blamed Owen for leaving. He looked for you all night. I know that now. Did Claire know you were safe? Yes. Then why did she keep hiding it? Peter's eyes filled. Because I asked her to choose. Peter had told Claire that if she revealed his existence to me, he would disappear again. He knew that was cruel. He also knew Claire carried guilt more reliably than money. She chose me, he said. No, she chose silence. To me, that felt like choosing me. For several years, Claire sent him money and helped arrange treatment. Owen handled most of the contact because Claire was afraid I would see Peter's name on letters or telephone bills. The treatment in Arizona eventually happened in 2002. Peter improved. By then, Owen was no longer working for the lighthouse service. He repaired marine generators privately and drank more than he admitted. I had imagined him moving on without regret. He had not. What did Owen want from you? I asked. Forgiveness. For losing you at the airport? For using me. I did not understand. Peter explained that Owen had wanted to leave the lighthouse service before Owl's Point. He was exhausted, in debt, and tired of being a dependable one. Helping Peter gave him a reason to miss the shift after the generator failure. Taking blame allowed him to escape a career he no longer wanted while appearing loyal to Claire. That was the second twist. Owen's sacrifice had been real, so had his relief. He protected Claire's secret, but he also used the crisis to leave a life he had grown afraid to quit honestly, and he suspected my maintenance error. Yet let me keep my license because exposing me would have exposed him too. Two friends protected each other in ways neither had requested. Both of us called it loyalty because that sounded better than fear. Did Claire know all of that? I asked some. Did she regret asking him? Every day. Why didn't she tell me when Peter got better? Peter touched the brass tag. Because by then, telling you meant admitting how long she had not trusted you. I could not argue with that. Lost years become their own reason for silence. Peter came to Maine the following summer. Martha joined us at Owl's Point, which had been automated years earlier. The tower still stood white against the gray water, but the old generator room had been converted into storage. I brought Owen's green canvas tool bag. Peter brought the brass luggage tag. We sat on a bench above the rocks while wind moved through the grass. Nobody tried to make the reunion larger than it was. Peter apologized for using Claire's guilt. Martha said Owen had loved being necessary and resented everyone who needed him. I admitted I had made reliability into a kind of judgment. If a person missed a shift, broke a promise, or asked twice for help, I decided I understood his character. Peter looked toward the tower. Claire thought you were strong, he said. She also thought strength meant I would not bend. Did she love you? Yes. That answer came without hesitation. Love had not prevented secrecy. Secrecy had not erased love. We went inside the generator room. The old fuel system was gone, but I could still point to where the valve had been. I showed Peter how a quarter turn could starve the engine slowly enough that everything seemed fine until the load increased. So one small mistake shut off the light? He asked. One mistake. Bad timing. A man who should have been there. Another man too angry to slow down. Peter nodded. Sounds crowded. Before leaving, Martha gave me Owen's tool bag. I keep it in my workshop now. The copper wire still closes the zipper. Inside, I placed a copy of the old maintenance sheet and the airline timetable from the suitcase. Peter kept the brass luggage tag until his last visit. Then he removed the cord from his neck and set the tag on my workbench. You should have this, he said. It has your name. It has your address. I turned it over. The old house number was worn almost smooth. Claire had engraved that address because she believed lost things should know where to return. The tag hangs from Owen's green tool bag now. Peter's name on one side. My old home on the other. When the brass taps against the canvas, it makes a small sound, barely enough to notice, but I notice it.